This Senate hearing turned explosive when Patty Murray accused Marco Rubio of outright illegal acts, and what happened next left the entire room stunned.
Senator Murray.
Thank you very much, Chair Graham. Senator Schatz, welcome to your new role. I look forward to working with both of you. Secretary Rubio, I am deeply concerned that you have overseen a systemic campaign to dismantle USAID, impound billions of dollars that this committee actually provided, and unilaterally remake the Department of State without the slightest bit of concern that you lack the authority to do that without Congress. It has created chaos, it's caused preventable deaths across the globe, and it has undermined American leadership. As Ranking Member Schatz noted, what you've done is outright illegal, a complete violation of bipartisan appropriation laws, the Impoundment Control Act, and the Anti-Deficiency Act. Within hours of taking office, President Trump halted all foreign aid in flagrant defiance of the law. Now, under your watch, Secretary Rubio, that freeze was implemented with chaos and cruelty. And then you illegally shuttered USAID, placing everyone on leave, halting life-saving work, literally locking people out of the building and out of their devices, even in dangerous corners of our world. You paid people not to work, abandoned our partners across the globe, and chaotically recalled global staff, putting more than 1,600 Americans who served our country abroad in limbo. And when you shut down the USAID payment system, you even refused to pay for services provided before the illegal freeze. You fought all the way to the Supreme Court, against paying for services U.S. businesses already rendered with funding that Congress already provided. And I know you know, Mr. Secretary, but you lost. And I assume you need the reminder because to this day, you have not made all the payments that are required by our nation's highest court. And as a result, American companies continue to lay off American workers. And by the way, you do continue to lose in court, including just yesterday over your move to illegally replace the U.S. Institute of Peace Leadership, and in recent cases over international broadcasting. Now, eventually, Mr. Secretary, you sent Congress notice of your intent to collapse the USAID into state. Only you didn't consult with this committee. That's required by law. It came without justification, also required by law, and it came long after USAID was reduced to rubble. So sadly, disregard for our laws and values, to me, has sort of become a pattern of your tenor, revoking visas when someone writes an op-ed you don't like, or reaching a secret deal to use taxpayer dollars to jail U.S. residents in a notorious foreign prison, no due process, or pointlessly leaving food assistance to rot in storage. Actually, in Dubai, we now have 500 tons of high-energy biscuits that expire in July. They're bought, they're shipped, they're stored, all at taxpayer expense. But you've condemned them to waste, and that is one example of many. Now, another pattern that I'm deeply worried about is transparency. We have pressed you for information. Our staffs have sent you. So with respect to my colleagues, how long are we going to sit here and watch this silently? Are we going to roll over as Trump tramples our laws and undermines our U.S. leadership, burns down what we have spent decades building, and let millions of people across our globe suffer and die? Or are we going to stand up, push back, assert our constitutional power of the purse? And to my colleagues on both sides, this is the moment to decide whether this committee continues to be a powerful bipartisan force, a force that I think we've all been proud of for a very long time, a force that is focused on safety and economic strength and national security, focused on leading the world in research and development and countering China and others with our soft power and our military power. Every single member of this committee knows what we are risking by letting this administration tear down so much. On USAID and other programs, we can always talk about how we can make things work better and other reforms. I don't think any of us are opposed to any of those considerations. We have been doing that in a bipartisan way for a long time. But that's not actually what Trump's fiscal year 2026 budget proposes. Mr. Secretary, I know you would like to give a 5-minute speech back to me, but I only have a few seconds left, and I do need some information from you. As I said, we have asked and have not gotten. Can you tell me, will you share the text and details with my staff of your agreement with El Salvador and any other similar arrangements, including the funding details that we need to have?
Well, first, I'd like to respond to your 7-minute speech, which is primarily, I disagree like 99% of it. It's just not true. We've done nothing that's illegal. We've been in over 600 briefings to Congress. We've asked questions. We've answered questions repeatedly. We get hundreds of questions a day. We respond them as quickly as possible. And your characterization of the moves that we made
Mr. Secretary, I would
false.
just tell you, we are here because we need the information so that we can write our budget and on a bipartisan.
Well, you'll have the information you need to write a budget.
Okay, so will we get the details on the El Salvador arrangement? Yes or no?
Well, which Salvador arrangement are you
Your agreement that you've made with them about.
Well, what agreement? The president of El Salvador agreed to take in 250 gangbangers, and we sent them.
Funding details we have not gotten. We need to see what the costs are.
Well, we haven't funded that. We've provided them law enforcement assistance. I know you just claimed that we cut all this law enforcement assistance. We provided El Salvador and other countries law enforcement assistance. They have the right to spend that money any way they wish. But they did us a big favor. They took 250 dangerous, trained out. We didn't deport any U.S. residents. No U.S. residents were reported.
I'm not going to argue with you on that point.
Well, it's not an argument, but don't say we deported U.S. residents, because we didn't. I don't deport anybody.
I'm not asking.
But we didn't deport U.S. residents.
I'm asking you whether we can see the details of the arrangements, including the funding details.
I'm giving you the details. The arrangements are we provide law enforcement funding to El Salvador, among other countries. How they choose to spend that money internally is up to them.
No.
But I can tell you.
Can you give me the details on the 200-plus offices you're proposing to
Sure, we've
eliminate?
provided that.
We need that. Can I get your commitment to give us those?
It's part of our reorg.
How about the details and justifications of your proposed rescissions from programs you claim are out of alignment with administration priorities? Are we going to get the details of that, funding priorities?
On rescissions and impoundment and things of this nature, that's obviously an OMB function, and I would talk to them about that in regard to what's going to go on with that money. I can tell you the contracts we canceled, and I can list to you the contracts we canceled and the rationale why, because I went through them myself.
Can you get those to us like today? So
the contracts?
Yes, and the funding arrangements that you've made. That's what I'm asking for.
Funding arrangements with who?
For any of the rescissions, for any of the funding, for any of the multiple congressional directives that you have given out, so that we as an appropriations committee can make our funding decisions.
Sure, you're going to have all that information when you put together a budget.
Thank you. I enjoyed that.
This hearing was one of the most tense and fiery exchanges we've seen recently in Washington, and it goes far beyond just a shouting match. What Senator Patty Murray did here was deliver a very public and very sharp rebuke to Secretary Marco Rubio, accusing him not just of policy missteps, but of outright illegal acts. And here's why this is so important. When a senator uses language like illegal, chaos, and preventable deaths, they're not just making noise. They're building a public record, one that could be used later for investigations, lawsuits, or even legislative changes. Let's break this down because there's a lot happening under the surface. Murray is essentially accusing Rubio and the Trump administration of violating 3 major federal laws: the Bipartisan Appropriations Laws, the Empowerment Control Act, and the Anti-Deficiency Act. Those are not small things. If proven true, this isn't just bad management. It's a direct challenge to the constitutional power of Congress to control federal spending. Notice how Murray framed her argument. She laid out specific examples, including halting foreign aid, shutting down USAID, and even refusing to pay for services already provided, something she says the Supreme Court had to step in and correct. That's a major deal. When the Supreme Court rules against the executive branch, it usually signals that there has been an overreach of authority. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Murray wasn't just listing complaints. She was making a larger argument about American leadership and credibility on the world stage. By pulling back aid, recalling staff, and freezing programs, she says Rubio weakened America's global presence, created openings for China and other rivals to step in, and ultimately made the U.S. less safe. This is a framing that goes beyond partisan politics. It's a direct challenge to the idea that America First policies are actually keeping America strong. And then came her call to action. Murray wasn't just talking to Rubio, she was talking to the entire committee, including Republicans. Her message was basically, are we going to sit back and let this happen, or are we going to use our constitutional power to push back? That was a very deliberate move, designed to pressure moderates and remind them that oversight is a shared responsibility. Rubio's response was defensive but telling. He dismissed 99% of her claims as just not true, which is a strong statement. But notice, he didn't address all the specifics she laid out. Instead, he pointed to the administration's willingness to provide information during the budget process and defended their decisions as legal and justified. This is where viewers need to pay attention. Hearings like this are about much more than who won the argument. They set the stage for future battles over funding, policy, and power. If Murray's accusations stick, and if more evidence comes out, this could become a major political liability not just for Rubio, but for the administration as a whole. And for everyday Americans, there's a bigger takeaway. These decisions affect real lives. Murray mentioned food rotting in storage, aid workers being recalled, and American jobs being lost. That's not just abstract policy. That's taxpayer dollars wasted and global goodwill burned. This is why hearings like these matter. They're not just political theater. They are where accountability happens, or fails to happen. And as Murray said, this may be the moment where Congress has to decide whether it will reassert its constitutional authority or let the executive branch continue to stretch its power unchecked. If you care about how America operates on the world stage, how your tax dollars are spent, and how power is balanced between Congress and the president, this is one of those moments you need to pay attention to. So let me ask you, do you think Murray made her case here? Or do you think Rubio's defense holds up? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is a debate that is far from over. And if you want to keep up with these explosive hearings and what they really mean, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we break it all down for you here.